So logical operators are operators such as and or not. So these are operators which we use to use compound conditions which have two or more conditions which need to be verified. So and they're also called Boolean operators. Um, and I mean you've probably used most of these before, you know them, like and is what, like if this condition or the first condition and the second condition is true, then our whole condition is true. If not, if either of them is false, then the whole condition is false. And for or, like if first or second condition is true, it's true, otherwise it's false. And like you can go ahead and do this for like 3 or 4 or 5 or however number of conditions. So you can have like you only execute this and line of code only if all the conditions are true, and you will use like multiple ands in between to do this, or using multiple ors you have like 4 or 5 conditions, and only if any of one of those conditions are true, then you execute the statements or execute whatever you need to. So yeah, now there's short circuit versions of and or, which is called and else and or else. So what they differ in the fact that if um, suppose suppose you have two conditions and using and also, so if the first condition is false, then second condition doesn't matter, right? So if it's an and condition, so that way you save some time. um, so these are exactly the same as and or. It's just the way they are built, that if you use them instead of and or, you'll save some like time in execution, even though it's not too long. I mean, not too considerable the time you save, but I would recommend using these and also or else instead of plain and or, because it's first there's some savings in time, and also it your code becomes more error proof, which you want. So I generally use this in my logical operators. There's also the not operation, which is basically um, inverting the condition. So reverses the truth value of condition. So before, if something was true and you use a not, then that true becomes false, and the false, if it was false before, then now it's true. And I mean, I mentioned and also, and or else basically, if suppose you have two conditions, it looks at the first condition. If it's true, then it does not go into the next condition anymore. So you save some time there. So, and I mean, at the bottom part you have some idea about true and false cases for not, and also, and or else. Some examples, and I'm not gonna spend too much time here because this should be clear that for example one, if it's not, if something is not insured, is insured, like checks whether if it's yes or no. So if suppose the not wasn't there, so if insured is true, then you execute. Now if you put not in there, so like if insured was true, then it's actually false, and if it's insured was actually false, then it's true. So if you want the opposite thing, you use a not. Example 2, if hours is greater than 0 and hours is less than 40, so if hours is above 0 but less than equals to 40, then it's true. And similarly, like the rest of the examples. Now there's also the condition XOR, which we haven't discussed, or exclusive or, the full form. And what it is let me go back to OR. So I mean, OR is basically if you have you have two conditions. If both of them are false, it's false. If either one of them is true, then your whole condition is true. And also if you have both of them are true, so that also means that the whole condition is true. Now XOR is different in the sense that it is true when only one and only one condition is true. So out of like two, if like the first is true and the second one is false, it's actually true. If the first is false and the second one is true, then it's also true. However, if both of them are true, then here for the XOR, your condition is false, unlike in OR where it was actually true. So that's the exclusiveness here, that only one of your inputs or conditions can be true for this to be true. And these logical operators are evaluated right at the bottom after or your arithmetic and comparison operators are done in an expression. And this basically shows the precedence, so exponentiation, negation, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and then your comparator operators are evaluated, and finally your logical operators come. So NOT has the first, and then AND, then OR. And some examples are given at the bottom, like how they are evaluated. So if you have that expression, the multiplication is evaluated first, then your comparison, and then finally your AND. So here's a code for an application where we calculate the total gross pay based on the hours entered by some employee of a company. And the conditions here are that it cannot be it has to be some number between 0 and 40. And if you have that some number there or some number of hours there, then it will give you a gross pay. Now there's two way of doing it, using and or you can do it using or. So the first example gives you how to do it with and. So you start with defining variables like hours worked and gross pay as doubles, and then you convert whatever number is given or the number inputted in the text box, and then you convert it into a double, and then if that double which is assigned into hours worked is greater than 0, greater than equals to 0, and also between or less than equals to 40, then you do the maths, like gross pay is hours worked times 10.65, which is your hourly rate, and then you whatever number you get, you convert it into string and then show it in the label text. And see the C2 in quotes, and we went over it. So C is for currency format, and 2 is that you have 2 decimal points after the number, and that's basically shown in the picture. And here we have the else statement, which basically means that the employee cannot work overtime, that he can only work up to 40 hours, and so anything above 40 shows an error, and it doesn't make sense to go below 0, right? You can't have negative hours. So if you enter any such number or anything which is like not within the 0 to 40 range, it will show an error. And so this is how you you eliminate invalid data, or the program failing if somebody puts in an invalid data. So even if you put in some character there or string, it will just show you error. And the next example basically is another way of doing the same thing using an OR statement. So here, if the hours worked is beyond or is either less than 0 or greater than 40, then you show the error. And if it's like within this limit, then you actually do the maths and display something.